Course 1.5.1 Notes. Before we begin our examples, we just want to talk about the words to know. The first word to know is literal equation, an equation that involves two or more variables. So given this example, we have y equals 3x plus 2. Notice we know it's an equation, it has an equal sign here, and it involves two or more variables. We have a y variable and an x variable. Formula, a literal equation that states a specific rule or relationship among quantities. Our example is our area formula for a rectangle. Area equals length times width. And then we have reciprocal, a number that when multiplied by the original number has a product of 1. So for our example, we're given 2/3. The reciprocal is that fraction flipped. So you have 2/3. If you flip the fraction, it's 3/2. The definition says a number that when multiplied by the original number has a product of 1. So if I take 2/3 and I multiply it by 3/2, if you multiply across, 2 times 3 gives us 6, 3 times 2 gives us 6, 6/6 is equal to 1. Solve the literal equation for y. We have 6y minus 12x equals 18. Our goal here is to get y by itself. Our first step, we're going to move negative 12x to the other side. In order to do that, we're going to add 12x on both sides. 6y equals, on our right side, you can see we have 18 plus 12x. Now normally we would combine these, but 12 has a variable with it, so these are not like terms. So what we're going to do is we're just going to write them next to each other. This is 12x, and I'm going to write plus 18 because it's a positive 18. Y equals 12x plus 18. We need to move 6 to the other side. In order to do that, we're going to divide by 6 on both sides. So we'll be left with y equals. Now here's a very, very important step. This is 12x plus 18 divided by 6. Each of these terms, 12x and 18, are being divided by 6. So I'm going to rewrite this. Whoops. Just so we can see visually what's going on. We're taking 12 divided by 6, which is going to give us 2. You're going to bring that x down with you, and then we're going to take 18 divided by 6, which is 3. And we're left with our answer. Now, if you really struggle with fractions or you struggle with division, you can use your calculator. Notice when we took 12 divided by 6, we got 2. So in my calculator, you can use this to check your answer. So I'm going to hit this N/D button, which is right to the right of my tan button. You can put 12 over 6, whoops, 12 over 6, which is going to give you a positive 2. So that's where I got that 2. And then if I type 18 over 6, I get that 3. So that's where that 3 comes from as well. Now for these type of literal equations, when you solve for y, just at the end, you want to make sure that this is in slope-intercept form because this is going to help you out in the future. Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And you can see our equation is in slope-intercept form, so we are good to go. We're going to solve the literal equation for y again. Our first step, we're going to move 15x to the other side. In order to do that, we're going to subtract 15x on both sides. We're going to be left with negative 5y equals negative 15x and 25. We cannot combine those. Those are not like terms. So we're going to write them next to each other again. Negative 15x, and then it's a positive 25, so I'm going to put plus 25. We're going to divide both sides by negative 5. When we do this, we'll be left with y equals negative 15 over negative 5x plus 25 over negative 5. Remember, we're dividing each of those terms by negative 5. Some of us really struggle with positive and negative numbers, especially when we divide, so we can use our calculator. Negative 15 divided by negative 5. It gives me a positive 3. So I'm going to write y equals positive 3. Don't forget to bring your x with you. And then we have 25 divided by negative 5. So I'm going to take 25 divided by negative 5, and I get a negative 5. 25 divided by negative 5 is negative 5. So at the end, I'm going to put minus 5. Our final answer, y equals 3x minus 5. Example 3. We're going to solve the literal equation for y to get y by itself. I need to move 3x to the other side. In order to do that, I'm going to subtract 3x on both sides. When we do that, we'll be left with 4y equals 16 and negative 3x cannot combine. They're not like terms. So we're going to write them next to each other. Negative 3x plus 16. Notice when I do this, when I write them next to each other, I've done this in the last two examples as well, I'm always going to write my term with my x variable first. So I'm always going to write my term with my x variable first for the reason that at the end, we don't have to rearrange these terms to get it into slope-intercept form. Our last step, we're going to divide by 4 on both sides. So I'm going to get y equals negative 3 over 4x plus 16 over 4. We are taking each of those terms and we're dividing them by 4. When I put this in my calculator, negative 3 over 4 is going to stay as negative 3 over 4. So we have y equals negative 3 over 4. Don't forget to bring your x with you. If I type 16 divided by 4, I'm going to get a positive 4. So I'm going to put a plus 4 at the end of that. Our final answer is y equals negative 3/4 x plus 4. The formula for finding the area of a triangle equals 1/2 b times h, where b is the length of the base and h is the height of the triangle. Suppose you know the area and the height of the triangle, but need to find the length of the base. In this case, solving the formula for b would be helpful. Let's go ahead and rewrite our equation. A equals 1/2 b times h. 1/2 our base times our height. Our goal is to solve this for b. We want to get b by itself. The first thing we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to move this fraction to the other side. In order to do that, we're going to multiply by its reciprocal. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. Now, if you remember from earlier in our notes, our words to know, our reciprocal is the flipped fraction. It's the flipped fraction because when we multiply these two together, 1/2 and 2 over 1, we're going to get the product of 1. So when we do this, we'll be left with b times h. And on our left side, if we take 2 over 1, which is the same thing as 2, if we take 2 times a, we're going to get 2a. We're not done yet because we need to get b by itself. So our last step is we're going to divide by h on both sides. When we do that, we'll be left with b on our right side. We're going to bring down our equal sign. And then 2a over h is going to stay like that. I always like to rewrite my equation so that my variable that I'm solving for is on the left side and not on the right side. So I'm just going to rewrite our final answer, b equals 2a over h. The distance d that a train can travel is found by multiplying the rate of speed r by the amount of time that it is traveling t, or d equals r times t, your rate times your time. We're going to solve this formula for t to find the amount of time the train will travel given a specific distance and rate of speed. We have d equals r times t. We're trying to solve for t. That means we need to move r to the other side of our equation. In order to do that, we're going to divide by r on both sides. On the right side, we'll be left with t. I'm going to bring down my equal sign. D divided by r. We cannot do anything with that, so we're just going to leave it as d over r. Remember, we like to write our variable that we're solving for on the left side of our equation. So I'm just going to rewrite this as t equals d over r.